let me tell you a story that may shake that belief a little bit and hopefully urge you to be a bit more cautious about how we use words. I work with a global engineering consulting firm. They had several thousand engineers all around the globe and 4 regions in that global empire. Each month, the heads of those regions would fly into central London to meet the head of operations, and they would discuss regional performance. Now, I sat in on these meetings, and they were not fun. And the reason they were not fun was one of the areas was significantly underperforming. Let's call it the Americas. As a professional services firm, they paid very close attention to a measure called utilisation. Now, utilisation, if you've not come across it, is simply the measure of how busy were we compared with how busy we could have been. So if I was potentially able to bill out 30 of my hours in a week to a client, and I actually billed 15 of those hours, then my utilisation was 50%. Now, it's the lifeblood of a professional organisation. Very high utilisation can be a problem because of burnout, but low utilisation means you have expensive resources that are not being charged out, so they become a cost. So this figure was very closely scrutinised, and each month, each of the regional heads had to present their utilisation figures, and the Americas was significantly lower than the other 3 regions. So over the previous months, the Americas head was responsible for a recovery plan. He had to explain what he was doing to close the gap between him and the other 3 regions, and he was closing that gap, but not fast enough for the global head of operations. So it was getting quite fighty, quite uncomfortable. And then we looked at how they worked out utilisation. And what we discovered was, yes, all the regions had utilisation measures. Yes, they all broadly followed the same principle, but the Americas, the previous head of the Americas region, had decided to employ admin staff. These are much lower cost resource, 1 for each 3 consulting engineers. And the idea was they take non-value add admin tasks off the engineers, freeing them up to do more consulting. And this head of had decided to include the hours that that admin person worked in the available hours. So to cut a long story short, the Americas could never get more than 75% utilisation, even though 25% of those available hours were much lower cost resource that could never ever be billed out. The other regions did not include their admin resource in the available hours. So what this meant was the Americas was capped at 75%, the rest of the world could get to 100%. If you reworked the utilisation figures for the Americas in the same way as the rest of the globe, they were not the worst region, they were the best performing region. So let's take a step back from this situation and think what had happened. We had the top operational resource in the whole organisation flown at great expense to a meeting where all 5 of them discussed a problem that did not exist and very nearly fired their best performing regional director. Now, there's no law that says you should or should not include admin staff in your utilisation. The only law is if you're going to compare the figures, you want to make absolutely sure that they're calculated in the same way. And this is not an isolated story. I had a long career in manufacturing before setting up made-to-measure KPIs, and it was really common to find different sites calculated their operational efficiency, including or excluding different things. Planned maintenance, staff training, power outages, you name it, they were different. So you could not reliably compare OEE figures from one site to another in the same company. So this problem is endemic, but it's only one of the issues that poor definition makes happen.